The morning began like any other, but there was something electric in the air, a quiet tremor that spread through every chat group, every online forum, every whisper of those who had been waiting for the great revaluation. David Miller was pouring his second cup of coffee when his phone buzzed with an alert so unreal he thought it was another hoax. The subject line read, "Booking now open, secure your IQD and VND exchange appointment." His hand froze in midair. The hot coffee dripped onto the counter as he stared at the screen, his pulse quickening. He blinked twice, afraid the words might vanish like so many rumors before. But this was no rumor. The link was from an official domain, verified and secure. The dream that had lived on the edges of skepticism for more than a decade had just crossed into reality. He rushed to his laptop, the mug forgotten, his fingers trembling as he typed the portal address. The page loaded slowly, the server obviously strained under the global surge of traffic. A flashing banner dominated the screen, IQD and VND exchange appointment portal now live. Beneath it, a timer counted down the open booking window. David's throat tightened. He had followed every whisper of this event for years, watched financial analysts debate it, listened to insiders promise, and endured endless waves of doubt. Now, before his eyes, it was happening. The system prompted him to log in with his pre-registration ID, something he had created long ago when he still half believed. He typed it carefully, hit enter and waited. Across the world, similar scenes unfolded. In London, a retired pilot named Grace Carter wiped tears from her eyes as her confirmation email came through. In Toronto, an ex-soldier named Ahmed shouted for joy in his apartment, calling his brother overseas. Telegram groups erupted with screenshots, voices trembling with disbelief and relief. The long, prophesied currency revaluation, the RV, had begun. Bank lines were forming before dawn, not for withdrawals, but for appointments that could change lives. The financial world was shifting under everyone's feet. Back in his home office, David refreshed the page again and again, watching the spinning circle of the loading icon as if it controlled his fate. The site struggled to stay online. Each refresh came slower, each new click met with error messages and retry buttons. His heart pounded with frustration and excitement. Finally, a new window popped open, schedule your appointment. He clicked instantly. A form appeared asking for location, preferred bank, and redemption center region. The drop-down list included the biggest players, Wells Fargo, Chase, Citi, HSBC. He hovered over Chase. It had always been rumored to lead the exchanges in his area. Selecting it, he scrolled to available time slots. Most were already grayed out, booked within minutes of opening. It was a global race against time. In between each lagging load, his phone buzzed nonstop. Messages flooded in from his small online circle of investors. I got mine. Portal crashing. Confirm your slot before it resets. The excitement was contagious. Years of skepticism, laughter, and financial waiting had been replaced with something tangible: action. When his screen finally displayed 10:30 a.m. available, he didn't hesitate. One click, one confirmation button, and the message appeared in bold green. Your appointment is confirmed. He let out a sound that was half laugh, half cry. After all the late night talks, the cautious hope, and the fear of being scammed, the system had finally said yes. The sound of notifications filled the air like rainfall. Across continents, people experienced the same shockwave of validation. Social media erupted. Screenshots of confirmation pages trended on X and Telegram. Hashtags like #IQD exchange and #VND redemption started climbing within hours. The excitement wasn't just about money, it was about vindication. For years, holders had been labeled dreamers and conspiracy chasers. Now they were the first witnesses of a historic event. David sat back, breathing heavily, staring at the screen that confirmed everything he had ever hoped for. His wife, Emily, entered the room, her sleepy eyes widening as she saw his expression. "What happened?" she asked softly. He turned the laptop toward her, still unable to form the words. She gasped when she read it. "It's real," he nodded slowly. It's real, it's actually happening. They stood together in stunned silence, the faint hum of their refrigerator the only sound grounding them in reality. Outside, the neighborhood was still calm, unaware of what was unfolding in homes like theirs around the world. For many, this was the culmination of decades of faith in a global economic realignment that few believed would ever come. For David, it wasn't about greed. It was about freedom. Freedom from the constant grind, the debt, the limitations. Freedom to start fresh. Within minutes, his inbox filled with confirmations and follow-up instructions. He was told to arrive 30 minutes early, bring identification, and prepare for security screening. The instructions were precise, formal, almost military in tone. He could feel the seriousness of what was coming. This wasn't just a currency exchange, it was a controlled transition. Banks, redemption centers, and global systems were working in synchronized secrecy. News networks hadn't picked up the story yet. Only specialized financial insiders were aware, and even they treaded carefully, dropping cryptic posts and coded confirmations. But David didn't need headlines. He had the proof in his inbox. He walked to the window, staring at the quiet street below, wondering how long before the rest of the world caught on. The magnitude of what was happening was almost too big to process. The system that had quietly prepared for this day was now fully activated. He could almost feel the vibration of energy coursing through the global grid, millions of hopeful investors logging in, the hum of bank servers, the encrypted data transfers between nations. This was no longer the stuff of speculation. It was logistics, law, and movement. Somewhere in the background, someone had flipped the switch. As morning light spilled across his desk, David's hands finally steadied. He opened a small, worn notebook where he had kept every rumor, every rate prediction, every date that had come and gone without result. He looked at the earliest entry, 2013 RV soon. The page was yellowed at the edges, the ink faded. He smiled faintly and wrote a new line beneath it, 2025 it happened. Then he closed the book, exhaling deeply. It wasn't over yet. His appointment still awaited, but this was the first real step. The waiting was done. Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance, though not from chaos, just the normal rhythm of the city. Life continued, unaware that beneath the calm surface, the greatest financial shift of modern times had just begun. In homes, offices, and hidden exchange centers, the future was quietly being rewritten, and for the first time in years, David allowed himself to truly believe that everything was about to change. Inside the secure redemption center, the atmosphere buzzed like a power line about to snap from the current running through it. The staff had been called in hours before dawn, briefed under strict protocols, and bound by confidentiality agreements thicker than the air they breathed. Every clock ticked in unison, every movement was deliberate, calculated, synchronized. Rows of polished desks lined the quiet halls, each one equipped with biometric scanners, encrypted tablets, and sleek terminals ready to process what might become the most historic financial operation of the century. There was no room for error. This was the culmination of years of planning hidden behind bureaucratic silence. The head supervisor, a woman named Marissa Cole, walked briskly past the team, her earpiece glowing blue. Keep verification at Tier 3 only, no unnecessary chatter with clients, she ordered in a low tone. Her staff nodded, typing final adjustments into the secure database. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and new plastic. Sterile, cold, official. Outside, the first wave of clients was arriving, their excitement palpable even through the soundproof glass. The security team, dressed in discreet black suits, managed the flow with military precision. No media, no phones, no recording devices. Every entrance required dual authentication, every movement was logged. David's confirmation email had led him here. As he approached the main gate of Exchange Center #7, the guards scanned his QR code, then verified his ID with an iris scan. The red light blinked twice, then turned green. "Proceed, Mr. Miller," the guard said without expression. Inside, everything gleamed, white marble floors, chrome trim, and LED panels softly humming with status reports. He noticed how calm everything felt, despite the fact that history was unfolding here. The air conditioning hummed steadily, but his palms were slick with sweat. He was ushered to a waiting area with others, each one holding an appointment slip, their faces painted with anticipation, disbelief, and nervous excitement. Across from him, a woman in her 60s clutched a small handbag tightly. They said it wasn't real. She whispered to no one in particular. "But look at us now." A younger man beside her smiled weakly. "I told my brother last week this was coming. He laughed. He won't be laughing now." The murmurs grew into a quiet wave of shared realization. The wall-mounted monitors above them displayed live updates. The figures glowed in bright green text, *IQ $3, 41 USD, VND $0.0047 USD, *. A collective gasp rose. The rates were real. No one moved, but the air itself seemed to thicken. This was the moment the world's most patient believers had waited for. Behind the scenes, Marissa's team worked tirelessly. They monitored real-time conversions, ensuring that each transaction was logged under the new IMF-regulated protocol. Every exchange required multiple confirmations, one local, one international. She leaned over a technician's shoulder, watching a client's transaction stream through. "We're stable," he confirmed, bandwidth holding, encryption solid, no breaches detected. She nodded, exhaling quietly. "Good, let's keep it that way." She knew how much was at stake. Billions were moving invisibly across digital channels, and even the smallest error could ripple through the system like a fault line. At 10:10 a.m., David's name appeared on the main screen, Mr. Miller, room 3A. His heart raced as he stood. The escort, a tall man with an earpiece, motioned for him to follow. They passed through another biometric checkpoint, where scanners verified his digital token. Beyond the frosted glass doors, the sound softened. The hallway led to small private rooms, each one designed for discretion and comfort. Inside, he glimpsed one of the bankers speaking quietly with a client, the soundproofing ensuring total privacy. Some people emerged smiling through tears. Others walked out stunned, silent, clutching their settlement folders like sacred relics. David waited as his escort checked his clearance once more. In the brief silence, he thought of every year that had led to this. The endless debates online, the mockery, the doubts, everything seemed distant now. What mattered was the hum of the machines behind the walls, the faint sound of digital money moving through invisible systems. Somewhere deep in the network, trillions of dollars in liquidity were shifting across borders. This wasn't fantasy anymore, it was the silent machinery of a new economic reality. Meanwhile, outside the building, the world was beginning to notice. Rumors were breaking across private channels. Some independent journalists had caught wind of unusual banking activity and were piecing together threads of what was happening. Government officials, too, were watching carefully, each one aware that a massive revaluation could send markets rippling across continents. Yet everything remained under wraps for now, no official statements, no broadcasts, only whispers and encrypted screenshots. Back inside the center, the rhythm continued like clockwork. Clients moved in and out in perfect sequence, their exchanges processed with surgical precision. Each desk had a banker, a security officer, and a verification specialist. They spoke softly but firmly, explaining every step to ensure understanding. "You will see your balance update instantly after confirmation," one banker told his client. "Please review your settlement statement before signing." The clients nodded, their faces a mixture of disbelief and awe. For many, these were sums they could never have imagined earning in a lifetime. At 10:25, David was called again. "Mr. Miller, we're ready for you." The escort's voice was calm, almost reassuring. As they approached the door to room 3A, he could feel his heartbeat in his fingertips. He took a slow breath. Behind that door lay not just money, but the validation of faith, the culmination of a decade of patience. While he waited outside for final clearance, a small commotion erupted near the entrance. A man without an appointment was arguing with a guard, waving a document. "I have holdings too," he shouted. "You can't shut me out." The guard remained firm. "Only verified appointment holders, sir. Please step back." The man's voice cracked, desperate. "You don't understand. I've waited for years." David turned his gaze away, heart heavy. not everyone would get through today. Some would still have to wait for the next phase, the next window. Inside, Marissa's earpiece crackled. Minor disturbance at entry gate 2. Handled. She exhaled, then adjusted her jacket and moved toward the operations board. All clear, she confirmed to her team. Next wave begins in 15 minutes. The system beeped quietly as the next series of names populated the screen. Each one represented not just a person, but a story, a lifetime of hope tied to a few small stacks of foreign currency. To her, they were data points, but to them, they were dreams materializing into reality. David finally stepped toward the door as it slid open with a quiet hiss. A soft voice inside said, "Mr. Miller, welcome." His appointment had arrived. Everything around him faded into silence except for the rhythmic thud of his pulse. He walked through, unaware that behind him, hundreds more were preparing to follow. Each step forward carried the weight of years, the whisper of change, and the dawning understanding that the world, as they knew it, had already begun to shift. When David entered the private exchange room, he was struck first by the silence. It wasn't the kind of silence that felt empty, but one that carried weight, the kind that wrapped around him and made every breath feel intentional. The room was minimalist, softly lit, with a sleek desk in the center and a small emblem of the bank etched discreetly on the wall. Behind the desk sat a woman in a tailored gray suit, her expression calm but welcoming. "Good morning, Mr. Miller," she said with a practiced smile. "Please have a seat. You're here for your IQD and VND exchange confirmation, correct?" He nodded, still too overwhelmed to find his voice. His knees felt weak as he sat down, clutching the envelope that contained his documents. She opened a slim tablet and began typing with quick, efficient motions. "Before we proceed, I'll need to verify your identification and your pre-registration code." Her tone was gentle but precise, the kind that conveyed absolute authority without aggression. He slid his passport and confirmation letter across the desk, and she placed them under a biometric scanner. A soft chime rang as the system verified his details. "Excellent," she said, glancing up with a reassuring smile. "Everything checks out." David exhaled slowly, realizing he had been holding his breath. The banker continued, "Mr. Miller, today we'll be processing your redemption based on the current live rate. I'll confirm the amounts, and once approved, the transfer will initiate instantly. You'll also receive a sealed settlement packet for your records." Her voice had a soothing rhythm, like a pilot calmly explaining turbulence mid-flight. "Do you have any questions before we begin?" He shook his head, words caught in his throat. Every second felt surreal. He'd imagined this moment thousands of times in his mind, yet nothing compared to the reality of it. She tapped her tablet again, and the screen facing him illuminated with digital numbers. His balance appeared, calculated to the cent, reflecting a value that made his heart stop. Years of modest savings, the small bundles of foreign notes he had bought in faith, were now worth millions. He blinked, certain he was misreading it. The banker smiled knowingly. She had seen this reaction countless times already today. "Yes," she said softly, "it's real. Congratulations, Mr. Miller." Her words broke something open inside him. A lifetime of tension released in an instant, every worry, every doubt, every quiet ridicule from those who had called it a fantasy, all of it washed away. He leaned back slightly, his hands trembling. This changes everything," he whispered. She nodded, understanding the weight of the moment. "For many people it does. That's why we recommend you take a few days to process before making any financial commitments. You'll have access to your funds immediately, but we encourage discretion." The next steps unfolded with methodical precision. She walked him through the legal disclosures, the non-disclosure agreement, and the new tax protocols established under international coordination. Each page required his signature, each signature witnessed by a silent assistant who entered briefly, then exited just as quietly. When it was done, the banker confirmed the transaction with a final biometric scan. A soft green light blinked twice on her tablet, followed by a faint beep. She looked up at him with a smile that seemed to carry the weight of the whole operation. "It's complete. You can check your account balance now." He hesitated before opening his banking app, half afraid the number might disappear if he looked too quickly. When the screen loaded, the new balance glowed back at him. The figure was almost too large to comprehend. He stared at it for a long moment, unable to speak. It wasn't greed that filled him, it was awe. He thought of every sleepless night spent wondering if he had made a fool of himself, every skeptical friend who had laughed. Now, the proof was right in front of him. The banker handed him a sleek black envelope embossed with the bank's crest. This contains your settlement documents, confirmation receipts, and contact information for your assigned financial advisor. Please keep it sealed until you're home. Her professionalism never wavered, though there was a softness in her eyes as if she genuinely understood how life-changing this was for each person who walked through her door. David stood still, dazed. "Thank you," he said quietly. She gave a polite nod. "It's been our pleasure to assist you, Mr. Miller. You'll exit through the private corridor. Security will guide you out." As he stepped out, the sound of the door sliding shut behind him echoed like the closing of one chapter and the opening of another. The hallway was lined with frosted glass panels that glowed faintly under recessed lights. A few other individuals passed him, escorted by staff, their expressions mirrors of his own, stunned, grateful, emotional. Everyone moved quietly, respectfully, as if aware they were participating in something sacred. Outside the building, the midday sun blazed bright against the glass facade of the Redemption Center. For a moment, David had to squint, the light too intense after the sterile calm inside. He took a deep breath, feeling the warmth on his face. Around him, life seemed unchanged, cars passing, people walking, a world still spinning at its usual pace, but to him, everything felt different. Each breath was heavier with meaning. A black sedan idled near the curb, and a uniformed driver stepped forward. "Mr. Miller," he asked politely, "your transport is ready." David nodded and climbed into the car, the leather seat cool beneath him. As the city rolled past outside the tinted windows, he felt like he was seeing it all for the first time. Billboards, storefronts, pedestrians' ordinary life moving forward, while something extraordinary unfolded beneath the surface. He thought of Emily, his wife, waiting at home. She had stood by him through every disappointment, never mocking his belief, even when he doubted himself. He pictured the moment he would tell her, imagined the tears in her eyes when she realized they were finally free. Free from debt, from uncertainty, from fear. For years, they had dreamed of opening a small coastal inn, a quiet place where the world couldn't reach them. Now it wasn't just a fantasy, it was a choice within his grasp. The car turned a corner, and he caught sight of others outside the center. People smiling, hugging, calling loved ones. Some stood still, staring into space, processing the weight of what they had just experienced. There was no chaos, no boasting, just quiet reverence. Everyone seemed to understand that something monumental had shifted, that this day would be remembered long after the headlines finally caught up. As the sedan approached his neighborhood, David felt a strange calm settle over him. The excitement had given way to something deeper, a quiet gratitude, an awareness of grace. He didn't see himself as lucky, he saw himself as prepared. He had held faith when faith was hardest, and now it had rewarded him. When he reached home, Emily was waiting on the porch. One look at his face was all it took. She covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks before he could even speak. He handed her the black envelope, and together they sat in stunned silence, hands clasped, hearts full. In that moment, the noise of the world faded away. Beyond them, redemption centers hummed in unison, transactions flowing like invisible rivers reshaping the global landscape. Somewhere a banker called the next name, somewhere else another life changed forever. The world outside was still unaware of how deep this change would run, how far its ripples would spread. For David, though, the meaning was simple. It wasn't about wealth, it was about vindication, about faith proven true. The years of waiting, of being dismissed and doubted, had all led here. As the afternoon sun dipped low, casting gold across the porch, he leaned back, closed his eyes, and smiled. The long night was finally over, and the dawn of a new life had quietly begun.